Hello students. Today's topic is on significance of entomology. What is entomology? Entomology is the study of insects. There are more than billions of different species of insect that have been described till date. These insects have lived on Earth for more than 400 million years and are the most abundant group of animals in the world. They are present in almost every habitat and play a significant role in agriculture, biodiversity, evolution, ecology, etc. Different insects have different characteristic features, and all are grouped into a kingdom called, what is that? Animalia, and class Insecta of phylum Arthropoda, right? So entomology, as we all know, is the branch of zoology, which is mainly involved with the study of insects, their characteristic features, general anatomy, morphology, and its contributions to the biological diversity and a variety of other fields of science. Why we need to study entomology? Insects are the most diverse and numerous of all living beings which are frequently encountered. We know that insects are very much useful to us in producing silk, honey, shellac, chemicals used in medicine and coloring material, and many of the insects even serve as food. And they also aid in pollination, act as scavengers on wide variety of organic waste, and kill the weeds and insect pests as well. Not only beneficial insects, there are certain kinds of harmful insects which destroy crops, stored materials such as grains, processed food, clothing, furnishing, and even they suck the blood of the man, which are considered to be hematophagous in nature, and they are phytophagous in nature on plants as well. And they are causing distress even in domestic animals. They also spread diseases affecting man and domestic animals and plants, as I said now. They are pests in household, eating places, poultry farms, agricultural fields, storage grain sheds, and various other places. Insects are useful for a purpose of entertainment, such as flea circus and fights of horn beetle and praying mantids. Because of the small size, they have high reproducibility with short generation time, and they serve as an excellent model systems for understanding biological principles because the scientists who study insects, they structure different parts along with their functions and the features, and they especially they make a lot of contribution to the full field of entomology based on the study of the insects because of its size, which is very convenient for them to study. And the scientists who study the insects are known as entomologists. And who is the father of entomology? William Kirby is called the father of entomology. Remember, this is a very important point. Based on his contributions to the field of entomology, he is known as the father of entomology. Who is he? William Kirby. Whereas Aristotle, the Greek philosopher and scientist, was the first person to present the anatomy of insects based on his groundwork for modern entomology. Okay? So insects, they act as models for designers, artists, jewelers, and even engineers. And insects have a lot of immense aesthetic value. Aesthetic sense is drawn out of the insects in many instances. So that is why we need a lot of studies on insects to know about them in detail regarding their help, their contribution, their all whereabouts on this environment. So, coming to the introduction of the entomophagy, what is entomophagy? Entomophagy is a term used to describe the practice of consumption of insects as food. As I've said, the one of the important feature of an insects is they serve as even food in certain parts of the world. Food and Agricultural Organization estimated that insects already form part of a traditional diets of at least 2 billion people amongst the world population. World population is increasing day by day, and it is expected to hit by 9 billion people by 2050. So, current food production will need to almost double, but land is scarce and will have profound implications on food production. So, therefore, United Nations has formulated 8 Millennium Developmental Goals. Among them are two important. What are those? Eradicating extreme poverty and hunger, reducing child mortality. So, how can we compensate this? So, it can be compensated by taking the insect as food, because insect provide very nutritious food because it has got a lot of proteins and lot of useful things which are important for the man's health and development, but it is practiced only in certain kinds of traditions and culture and in certain kinds of places amongst the world. And hope maybe in the near future, we have seen a lot of videos went on viral as people belonging to Singapore, Malaysia, Chinese, of course, Chinese, Japanese, they consume these insects as their food, as the part and parcel of their life. But maybe in the coming years ahead, even most of the countries practices this mode of feeding entomophagy. In even the maybe United Nations, that also they have also given certain kinds of formulations in order to eradicate the extreme poverty. So entomophagy also become an important thing or a common thing in the near future. Okay, let's wait to have a dedicated dish of that insects in the near future. Maybe. Okay. So insects as food for many animals, not only for, we have talked about the human beings just now, and they are serving it. Actually, they are serving food for many animals. The animals such as aves, mammals, okay, most of the, even fishes. So the higher vertebrates, they are especially dependent on these insects as their main source of food. So coming to the history of entomology in India. So there's a lot of history of entomology in India, but only a few things I'm quoting you now. So in 1758 is the year where the Carolus Linnaeus have contributed about 28 species of insects in the 10th edition of Systemae Naturae. And this is a very huge contribution in the past period where the entomology have existed as a subject. J.C. Fabricius, the first entomologist, he has made an extensive study of Indian insects and classified the insects into 13 orders based on the type of the mouth parts. In 1767 and 1779, J.G. Koenig, 18th century, collected number of insects from Coromandel area and southern peninsula of India. And in 1785, The Asiatic Society of Bengal was started in Calcutta, especially for the insects. In 1791, Dr. J. Anderson issued a monograph on cochineal scale insects. Likewise, a lot of research has taken place each and every year, even in 19, in the 19th century, and a lot of contributions have took place, and only a few things I'm quoting here. In 1916, the Natural History section of the Indian Museum was formed as ZSI, Zoological Survey of India, where a lot of information regarding each and every animals along with insects are stored here in this ZSI. And the work for the lot of programs were done on behalf of ZSI to to improve the to improve and to protect the species. In 1921, Indian Central Cotton Committee to investigate on pests of cotton was constituted. In 1925, Indian Lac Research Institute started in Ranchi. In 1934, Hem Singh Purthi, who succeeded Fletcher as imperial entomologist, made efforts to bring all the entomological workers still closer, which resulted in the foundation of Entomological Society of India in 1938. Okay, so when did the Entomological Society of India formed? In 1938, which is an important point to remember. ZSI, which is formed in 1916, is also an important point to remember. Okay, so what is the significance of entomology? So insects are said to be found all around us, right? No matter where we live and what we do. We all come across these insects. Some are poisonous and cause harm, while some are non-poisonous and do not bite or cause any harm to human beings. Similarly, similar to the humans, there are few insects which cause harm to both plants and animals. So entomology mainly deals with the scientific study of insects. Entomology is derived from the Greek word entomon, meaning notched or cut, also referred to as body segments found in all insects. The study of entomology also deals with the study of relationship between insects, relationship between humans, food, biological diversity, pharmaceuticals, with our environment, and other fields of science. So, for example, what is the significance? Here, there is an example. Sigma Chemical Company purchased fireflies for medical research. So, these bugs contain enzymes or chemicals which are called as luciferin and luciferase. These are very rare chemicals that the scientists have been unable to reproduce synthetically. So, the chemicals are used in researching treatments. So, these chemicals they wanted to produce synthetically. Why? Because these chemicals, which were extracted from the bugs, they helped in treatments of curing even the deadliest diseases such as cancer, multiple sclerosis, cystic fibrosis, and even cardiac diseases. So, a lot of research is going on this bugs, especially the fireflies, lightning bugs, not only these bugs. A lot of research was carried out on various kinds of insects which are beneficial and harmful, and at the molecular level of organization, at the chemical levels and the hormonal levels, and which is not important and which is important for the human welfare is especially known by these entomologists in the form of a research. So, why I'm showing you here what the significance is to carry out the research. So what is the research useful for? If the researchers are carried out with all this research on various kinds of insects, they can come out with a lot of useful things which for the human beings. So that is an example which have shown you here, which is in the form of a fireflies. So why fireflies? They are carrying on the research on fireflies because the fireflies have certain kinds of chemicals which are very rare available, rarely available in this nature that is there in the form of luciferin and luciferase, so that by studying or by taking the by analyzing and by various kinds of research studies on these chemicals, such that they can reproduce or they can produce and they can make the other insects, these insects to produce large amounts of these enzymes, or maybe they can produce in a bulk amounts synthetically. Because they're not able to produce synthetically, there a lot of research is carrying out on these insects because of these chemicals. These chemicals are used in medicine, that used in curing various kinds of diseases, as I just told you now. Not the simple kind of diseases. They are curing very deadliest diseases concerned with the heart ailments and even the cancers and fibrosis and various other ailments. So even not only this, there are other mayflies or fruit flies. They have also been extensively used in research, especially in the genetic studies. Okay. So as I said, and it helps especially in the human roles. The significance of entomology, especially vastly, is spreading in research. And insect research enables, what does it do? The research enables people to create pest resistant varieties of some crops. So because of this intensive research, the man is able to create a pest resistant varieties of some crops, so that they're resistant to various kinds of insects or various kinds of enemies which are present in their environment of the atmosphere of the surroundings, and so they become pest resistant varieties, and so which serve as a food and improve the economy of the human beings. That is why extensive research is carrying out, and that is a very important feature of an entomology. Insect research aids in the creation of insect-specific insecticides. Got it? So the scientists are able to produce the exact target insect-specific insecticides by carrying out the research of different kinds of insects and their morphology or the physiology or the behavior of the insect to the root level or the molecular level or the cellular level. Insect research helps scientists with medical or drug research. Just now we have seen the fireflies helps in giving medicines with the help of their chemicals produced like in the form of luciferins. Not only those animals, those insects, but also various other insects also are able to give out their contribution in the form of medical and drug research, which is useful for human beings again. Okay, another important significance of entomology. So they provide food to various other animals. Okay, so they're providing the food for different kinds of animals. So without those insects, the food chain would be disturbed. So the food chain is, there is the nature is so formed by the creator that each and everything in this nature is interrelated and coordinated, so that a chain reaction, it occurs in the form of a chain reaction. One is dependent on another is dependent on another. That means so interdependent on each other. Such is seen. So such is also related with the insects. Without insects, there is no food chain. We can, I mean, of course, there will be food chains, but the food chains will get disturbed because this is an important part of the component in the ecosystem, especially in the form of the food chains and the food webs. So the food chains and the food webs will be distributed, will be disturbed if the distribution of the insects is also not perfect, or there is without insect. The environment is without insect is no have no meaning at all. Researchers can use insects for product development as well. Okay, so various kinds of products can be developed with the help of the insects. For example, lac. Lac comes from the lac scale insects and it is produced especially in India. And India is the largest producer of production of this lac amongst the world, and approximately 40 million pounds are used annually as it is important ingredient of the floor polishes, shoe polishes, insulators, and various sealants, printing inks, and varnishes. And this is very much, these products are very much used every day, daily, for the construction purposes, for building purposes, for daily use, and for the human anthropogenic uses. And so the lac is a product which is coming from an insect. So what are the other products which are coming from the insect other than this? Even the silk is also coming as a product from the insect, right? The silk is said to be the best product, which is rich product, which is coming from the silk moth. And China is the largest producer of the silk, as we all know, and India is the second largest producer of the silk, and Indians depend on this silk because we consider this silk as part and parcel of our life, because it is used in our tradition and culture, and it shows the richness and magnificent nature and the lustrous because of its lustrous texture and smooth texture. And there are different kinds of silk available in India, especially indigenous silks are also available in India, which is also a product which is coming from India, that is especially from the insects. And not only that, honeybees, they provide the honeys, not only honey, the shell, and the honey, the propolis, royal jelly, and honey bread. And these are all the products coming from the honeybees. And these products are serving the human society by providing the honey or various other products, just giving the health and wealth for the human survival. Okay, so what is the significance of entomology? Let us know the pest management. Pest management is a huge subject. Again, integrated pest management is a huge subject. We will know about it in very much detail, but what entomology does. So entomology helps in prevent unnecessary destruction by harmful insects, thus minimizing the crop losses. So that comes under IPM. So what is IPM? Integrated Pest Management. Let me tell about this in short in this class. Integrated Pest Management. It is an effective and environmentally sensitive approach to pest management that relies on a combination of common sense practices. IPM programs use current, comprehensive information on the life cycles of pests and their interaction with the environment. This information, in combination with available pest control methods, is used to manage the pests which cause damage to the crops by the most economical means and with the least possible hazard to people, property, and environment. So what are the IPM approach? This IPM approach can be applied to both agricultural as well as non-agricultural settings. So what are the places which we use or which we set up this IPM? Like the home, gardens, the workplaces, we can set up the IPM. So IPM takes advantages of all appropriate pest management options, including but not limited to the judicious use of pesticides. In contrast, organic food production applies many of the same concepts as IPM, but limits the use of pesticides to those that are produced from natural resources as opposed to synthetic chemicals. Got it? Got the difference between the organic and got the difference between the pesticides which we are using now through the setup of an IPM? Yes. So how does IPM program work? So I'll go in detail in the next class, but let me tell you some more about it. IPM is not a single pest control method, but rather a series of pest management evaluations, decisions, controls. Like in practicing IPM, the growers who are aware of the potential for the pest infestation, they follow four-tiered approach. What are the four-tiered approach? Set action thresholds. Like what is set action threshold? Before taking any pest control action, IPM first sets an action threshold, which means a point at which pest populations or environmental conditions indicate that pest control action must be taken. Okay, citing a single pest does not always means control is needed. The level at which pests will either become an economic threat is critical to guide future pest control decisions. The second point, monitoring and identifying the pests. Like not all the insects, weeds, and other living organisms require control. Many organisms are innocuous and some are even beneficial. So IPM programs work to monitor for pests and identify them accurately so that appropriate control decisions can be made in conjunction with action threshold. So this monitoring and identification removes the possibility that pesticides will be used when they are not really needed or that the wrong kind of pesticide will be used. So this through this IPM, we know the accuracy or what kind of pesticide to be used. The third and important thing is prevention. As a first line of pest control, integrated pest management programs works to manage the crop, lawn, or indoor space to prevent the pest from becoming a threat. In an agricultural crop, this may mean using cultural methods such as rotation between the different crops, selecting pest-resistant varieties, and planting pest-free rootstock. So these control methods can be very effective and cost efficient and present little to no risk to people or the environment. And fourth important thing is control. Okay, first one is set action thresholds, setting the action thresholds. Second one is monitoring and identifying the pests. Third one is prevention, and fourth one is control. So how do we control? Once monitoring is done, identification is done, and action thresholds indicating that pest control is required and preventive methods are no longer effective or available, IPM programs then evaluate the proper control method, both for effectiveness and risk. So effective, less risky pest controls are chosen first, including highly targeted chemicals such as pheromones to disrupt the pest mating, or mechanical control such as trapping or weeding. Like if furthermore monitoring, identifications, and action thresholds indicate that less risky controls are not working, then additional pest control methods could be employed, such as targeted spraying of the pesticides, broadcast spraying of non-specific pesticides is a last resort. So these are all important steps to be included in the IPM program work. In a series of pest management, but just evaluating the load of pest the type of the pest and how to give, when to give, what to give, how according to the risk. Okay. Excuse me. Okay. So how do we, the role of insects? So what is the role of insects? So the insects play a very important role. Like insects may sting or startle us, but they help keeping the planet livable. As some insect population, yeah, as some insect population, when we look at because there is a loss of habitat in the farms and cities. Why it is happening? Maybe because of the climate change, maybe because of the lot of use of pesticides, and some of the many unknown species. Before they are gone, we have to check all these things. So, let us know the role of insects. They in the like every buzzing, crawling, and hovering insect is a cog in an ecological machine. These are tiny individuals. These efforts add up to the colossal benefits for the life on the earth. A pair of blue tits might collect up to 100 caterpillars every day to feed single chick. See, how are they acting? The role of insects, they're acting as a food for various animals. Like I'm quoting about the tit. Tit is a bird. A blue tit is a bird. So for a pair of blue tit, like two birds, how many caterpillars are needed every day? 100, up to 100 caterpillars. Look at that. So 100 caterpillars are needed for a pair of blue tit birds. So it's feeding its chick, the small chick. The tits are feeding a small chick. So they are providers. So insects are nearly providing food. So they are nearly every food, they're present in every food chain. Many larger animals like birds, bats, amphibians, and fish, they mainly eat insects. They are mainly eating the insects before they in turn are eaten by the predators. The dearth of insects is suspected to be the leading cause of the recent declines in the bird populations. Understand this? So why the bird population is declining? Because of the cause of dearth of the insects. So when one chain, in a food chain, when one species is getting lost, when one species is getting affected, the other species will subsequently get affected and it affects the food chain. So if the insects are affected, it hugely affects the food chain because the food is not gathered by the other group of animal species which are solely dependent on this insects. So they are acting as a providers of the food. The role of insects also, the main role is food. So these are all main roles, pollination, decomposition, these are all main roles only. So food is also as a main role. I already discussed about this food, the food of entomophagy. But here, so not other than the entomophagy, so for human beings. So this is the main source of food for various other animals. Okay. So what could happen in the world without insects? The species that are higher up the food chain suffer population losses. So dung beetles. So next one is decomposition. Yeah, the insects helps in decomposition. They act as decomposers. So the best example is dung beetle. You can see this is the dung beetle. You can see this is a dung beetles. This is the sparrow. the blutids which are having the food in the form of caterpillars. Got it? Okay. The dung beetle, the canthum imitator, it's also called as canthum imitator. So waste eating insects, they unlock nutrients for use by the ecosystem that would otherwise stagnate in dung, dead plants and carrions. Dung beetles process parasite breeding and grass killing cattle dung in 23 months versus the 28 it would otherwise take. Waste and so here, what is it doing? I am telling about that. So waste and carrion persist in the ecosystems, impeding the flow of nutrients. Okay. So the dung which is present, the filth which is present in the earth, it is carried out by these beetles, and they are the insects, they unlock the nutrients for the use by the ecosystem by 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 breeding and by killing the cattle dung, and so the dung and the filth which is present in the surroundings is killed, and it is turned into an recycling waste, the waste which is recycled by these dung beetles. It takes at least about 23 to 28 months. Okay. If these are not present, the decomposition is also will become tough. That is why these beetles, and other than these beetles, they are the species which belongs to these beetles or the coleopterans, they especially aid in decomposition services as well. Okay. And they act as pest controllers. I've not mentioned here, but I'm telling you, they act as pest controllers. How? For example, aphids. So the damsel bugs. What are aphids? The aphids, they are present, they're crop threatening pests. Okay? They're crop threatening pests. So these pests to be eaten by the other group of insects in a food chain. So the damsel bugs, in an acre of cropland, the damsel bug can eat 1,000,000 aphids a day. Remember, the damsel bugs, how many bugs it can eat a day? It eats 1,000,000 bugs, that is aphids a day. What are aphids? Aphids are pests on the crop plants. So the crop plants are getting destroyed by these aphids, and these aphids, they are killed in turn by the natural pest controllers, which are in the form of damsel bugs. That is why these, we can say that insects are acting as a pest controllers. By feeding on crop threatened pests, predatory insects perform the role of pesticides without the chemicals. That means these are natural insect pesticides. So that means naturally they are eating the pests. So no need of giving the chemicals, chemical test. So they're these especially damsel flies, which act as a pest controllers, they cut pest control costs and increases the yields, saving agricultural industries billions of dollars every year due to these damsel flies, while reducing toxic pesticide residue on the crops as well. So, okay. Next is pollination. So pollination services. So you can see the bumblebee here. Okay. So a bumblebee, it can visit and it can help pollinating 3,000 flowers a day. Remember, it's a very interesting, right? These are all very important and very interesting role of the insects. What is bumblebee doing here? It is visiting and helping to pollinate about 3,000 flowers a day. So it's not a joke, guys. So 3,000 flowers means it's a huge number. And especially, what is that bumblebee? There are different kinds of bees which pollinate the flowers, especially this rusty patched bumblebee. What is this known as? Rusty patched bumblebee. It's also called as Bombus ephenis. Bombus ephenis is the one which can visit and pollinate about 3,000 flowers a day. So that means they're acting as a pollinators. Not only this bee, but nearly 90% of the flowering plant species and 75% of the crop plant species solely depend on pollination by animals. So especially insects, mostly by insects. Not only insects, and other animals also act as pollinators, such as birds, even the mammals also. Overall, one of every 3 bites of food humans eat relies on animal pollination in the production process. Remember, we have to thank them. So each and one out of every 3 bites of our food relies on the animal pollination in the production process. Got it? So crops cannot reproduce by themselves. Some of them are self-reproducible, but they can reproduce only with the help of the pollination. Okay, with the help of the humans, with the help of the other animals. So humans and animals lose key food sources if there are no pollinators. Got it? Yes. And the act in recycling. The act in recycling, like how? Let me tell you. Some of the insects act as soil engineers, recycling. So how? For example, termites. The termites, what do they do? And even ants. So our lot of the earth is filled with these ants and termites. You know, they can transform the soil in hot, dry climates. They're tunneling. They go into dug into tunnels, and their tunneling aerates hard ground. So hard ground is made into soft. Got it? So helping in retaining water and adding nutrients. So the water and nutrients is also, that means the soil is making getting fertile because of this insects which are digging insects, ants, termites, and other digging insects, the beetles, etc. In some regions, the introduction of termites have turned infertile land into cropland within a year. This practice is used even in some regions, it seems. Okay. Soils in arid regions becomes barren, crop fail, and deserts expand in that regions. So the species in 5 major orders of the insects have experimented population losses. Sorry, this is another thing which I'm telling you. Okay, the soil engineers, they're acting as soil engineers by making the unfertile land into the fertile land. Okay. And one of the recycling, so decomposition, we have to, I told about this, pollination. Okay. And biological control. Yes, I told you about this biological control, damsel fly acting as a natural control, which is acting as a natural pesticide that is biologically controlling the pests which are damaging the crops. Okay. So these are all the different means of ecosystem services which is especially carried out by the insects. So I would like to tell one point. Species in 5 major orders of insects have experimented population losses. Of the 2,200 species tracked for population trends by the International Union for Conservation of Nature, a tiny sample of what's out there is nearly half phase declining numbers. You can see this. There is lot of population losses in insects. So even IUCN has given that there is a lot of losses in the 5 major orders of the insects, especially insects belonging to Odonata. That is 71% of the species, like dragonflies, they are decreasing in day to day. So there is an increasing rate is only 2%, and the stable 71% of species are stable, and 27% of the species have got decreased. The population has already decreased. The dragonflies, you know that Tuniga. Okay, these dragonflies, they are majorly contributing on this ecosystem. They are belong to the order Ordinata, and they have already decreased to 27%, and 71% of the species are stable, and its decreasing rate is 36%. And how much is stable in the environment of butterflies and moths are 63%, and only 1% is increased. They belongs to Lepidoptera. And one more other important insect order is Hymenoptera, especially the bees, wasps, and ants are found in this group. Okay, in this order, and 42% is decreasing, and only 57% is stable, guys, and 1% is in increasing rate. So it is going on decreasing. Why? Because of different things, the ecological balance, because of global warming, because of the population increase, because of the overconsumption of this, exploiting the natural resources, and because of using of lot of pesticides, chemical pesticides. That is why IPM has come into being, and the biological control has come into being. A lot of practices are changed nowadays, and measures are taken, but lot has more to take, lot more has to take. That is why there is a very less increase in this species. So coming to this another group of insects like beetles, they belonging to the order Coleoptera. 61% has already decreased, guys. Only 37% is under stability, and 2% is only increasing. So you can see the huge decreasing in all these insects. So another most concerned group of insects are grasshoppers and crickets, which belong to the order Orthoptera. 85% is decreased, only 12% is in constant or stability, because, and 3% is just increasing. Got it? So, so what is to be needed? It has to be taken more care, because these species, insect species, are also decreasing day by day because of the anthropogenic intervention. So it is again our responsibility to take care of the whole environment, and thus in turn we conserve these species which are rare and which help in our ecosystem in various kinds, and imparting various kinds of services. Okay. So this finishes today's topic, the significance of entomology. Hope you have understood. So we have discussed about the various points on today. So the importance of the entomology, why do we need to study the entomology, and especially the entomophagy, what is the term which is called as entomophagy, and this ecosystem services of entomology. That is, we have known a little thing about the history of entomology, and Kirby is said to be the father of entomology. Do you remember? Yes, we have known certain significant features of the entomology concerned with the research and the human roles, and they are acting as a products, giving important products to us, and providing food for us as well as various animals, and they are acting an important role in insect pest management, and their role of insects in ecosystem services we have discussed in a little content, and with pollination, decomposition, recycling, biological control, and food roles of the insects, and thus. So this, hope you have understood well about this topic, and so this is all for today. Thank you.